Hello, Sioux Falls, and welcome to this edition of Planning Preview. My name is Kurt Johnson. I'm the chairman of the City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission, and with me is Jeffrey Schmidt of Planning Services.
Hello.
Morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Good morning, Kurt.
Sounds like we had some excitement in planning in terms of new things. A recent citizens-based planning academy was held. Is that correct?
That's correct. We thought we'd try it. The other departments in City Hall groups have done it, where they've done academies, citizens academies, I guess you'd call it. So we tried to do a citizens planning academy. Basically, we just asked citizens if they'd like to attend, and they said yes. So we had 35 citizens come to the library on 2 different nights. It was a 2-session event. So we asked them to show up for both events, and we went over everything that really the Planning Commission does, and so from that standpoint, Kurt, it will be really interesting to see if those citizens respond accordingly. I mean, it was the standpoint of what's land use versus zoning?
Sure.
What's a rezoning? What's the comprehensive plan, and what should we expect in our neighborhood? We weren't talking about specific projects on the agenda. It was just everything that goes into planning a community. And it was really good because I think the meetings were an hour to an hour and a half, and they were really formatted for a half an hour and then an hour of comments and discussion where they just asked us questions. But it went really well. And what we're trying to still get Citizens Planning Academy comments back for, what more would you like to see? And so it's the same question that we ask our planning commissioners every week, every month. You're our Citizens Planning Academy. You're just a citizen, and we ask you all the time. Ask us, tell us, give us more feedback, because that's how we learn and grow as staff. Is if people will tell us, could you try this? Would you be interested in this? Landscaping, public input. I mean, it goes the whole realm.
Yeah, well,
So,
very good.
yeah.
And when you talk about public input, there have been comments lately in some public meetings about, well, paraphrasing, I wasn't aware this was going to be going on.
Right.
So how has that impacted from this group? Did they have any insight or comments on that?
It's always the general comment. How do you do this, and could you do better? And we're like, yes. And we're like, then we look back to the citizens and how would you like us to do better? And they're like, well, we don't know. And we're like, we're no different than you. We don't know how to do it better. I mean, one of the reasons why you and I do Planning Preview is because it's a better way to get the information out.
Sure.
We try to tell the citizens or stakeholders, we have to put it in the newspaper. That's what we have to do.
Right.
And they're like, but do you understand? We're like, yes, we do understand that nobody's reading, very few people read the legal notices, but that's what's required. But do you also know that we send out notices to people in writing we also post signs, we also do Planning Preview, we're like, tell us what else we could do. We're not saying we won't do it, but you gotta give us more ideas, because it's hard to get people involved.
Sure. Well, I understand what you're saying. Print media is becoming less popular, not completely out, but less popular.
Right.
People tend to desire to, lack of a better way to say it, cut the cable snake because of those fees keep increasing,
yes.
and is there a way to save money in the family budget? I've been tempted myself, sorry.
Yep.
But,
Sorry, kids.
Yeah. So online media, though, that tends to be options and different things that could be considered. So we're definitely interested in input on that as a...
Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do a Netflix show. The Kurt and Jeff... No, okay, never mind.
Cheers, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do a Netflix show, and then maybe we'll go on YouTube, we'll do something else, and because that's where, I don't know.
Well,
we're taking ideas and suggestions.
We'll just keep those in the idea box for now and go
Until we
on.
get an overwhelming demand.
So here are some of the items we're going to be reviewing for the November 1st meeting. So our first item for consideration will be a rezone from the Recreation Open 2 District to Live Work North Weber Avenue and East 7th Street.
This is, again, as you can see from the exhibits and the images that we have this month a few rezonings. It's getting towards the end of the season and we're going into winter, so we're not having as many applications. Rezonings are a hearing where we go to Planning Commission and they ask if they can go from this item to this item. That's the two choices. Then after Planning Commission makes the decision, it will go forward to a City Council hearing where City Council will make that final decision. Now this one is the city park at the corner of 8th and Weber, and on that 7th and Weber corner is a old fire station, which also used to be an old park shop. It's vacant, it's been abandoned, but it's gone through many uses.
Sure.
So it's zoned rec, but it's not used that way anymore. And they're saying, could we possibly change it to live, work, and repurpose it? And again, it's either that or it stays vacant because it's not being used as rec. So again, I've tried to give some background first, and as we go through all these, I won't give all the background, but either do it this way, and if you're not going to do it this way, it stays as it is.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the public thinks about that one.
Yep.
Thank you. Our next item is a rezone from an office district to a apartment residential RA2 moderate density, South Townsley Avenue and West 85th Street.
This is pretty typical. So on the south side of town, or like not typical for the location, but for the uses. Office or apartments. Since I've been here the last 20 years, that's really the market. People come in, they say, well, single family, commercial's commercial, but the office apartment market are very similar. So people will come in and say, depending on the season or the year, I'm either going to do offices or I'm going to do apartments. So here's a good example where they originally zoned it to office, and now the market's changed a little bit and they're looking at doing apartments. So if they don't get it approved, they're going to go back and try to do offices, but it's pretty typical in every place in the city of Sioux Falls as you transition off of a busy street like 85th Street to say, can this be office? And we're like, yes. Can it be apartments? Yes. It's an appropriate land use. And then just depending on what the market is. And when I say market, it's what's selling that month, or what's selling, what's hot, what's the vacancy rate.
Where's the demand?
What's the demand?
Yeah,
Thank
exactly,
you, Kurt.
exactly.
Yeah. And then again, so that demand changes month to month, year to year, quarter to quarter. And so they change it by zoning.
Free market society, gotta
Yes.
love it. Well, good deal. Our next item is a rezone from the agricultural district to the I-1 light industrial, East 57th Street and west of Highway 11.
Southeast, so 57th and Highway 11. This is a good one. Again, all these have these images that go with it, which is really nice on planning preview, and that you wouldn't get if we just did a legal notice.
Exactly, an orange sign doesn't
Or an
have
orange
the-
sign doesn't
yeah.
have all the pictures and images,
Exactly.
so what we like. But it's in the county, when we get it in the city of Sioux Falls, 90% of the stuff that comes in from the county comes in as ag. I bet the other 10% comes in as rural residential or residential.
Sure.
So all of it comes in as ag. And this one at 57th and Highway 11 is looking to be light industrial. For the citizens out there, light industrial is basically warehouse distribution type of uses, because we also have then heavy industrial, which this would not be.
Very good. Our next item is a rezone from a single-family residential district, a little more dense, RD1 twin home house duplex district, roughly the 6500 block of South Vintage Place. I'm not familiar with that one personally, but
Again, south side of Sioux Falls,
Sure.
In the neighborhood, and in the past, you used to be able to do twin homes in a single-family neighborhood.
sure.
That was typical prior to Shape Places, and Planning Commission picks up on this a lot. And so they'll say, based upon Shape Places, now this is a rezoning. In the past, it was a building permit issue. You could come in and go, in this neighborhood, you could pick and choose between, in a residential neighborhood, single family or twin home. So now that's what they're really trying to do here, is say, it was zone RS, but now we have to come back, as I've stated before, go to Planning Commission, to City Council, and rezone it to RD and get these 2 lots for twin homes and build them as such.
Sure.
It's based upon the zoning, not on the building permit.
Well, and this still does allow for a more consistent transition between
Correct.
lighter to, a twin home versus a single family, not a little more dense, but not significantly.
Not significantly,
So,
because again, as you progress there, as Kurt just said, we do go RD1, RD2 allows more units than RA is apartments, but this is just the lower units, twin homes, a duplex. They're still, in our mind, single family, because there's still one housing unit
Sure.
attached. Yep.
No, very good. Next item is an RT1 single-family residential traditional to a C2 neighborhood streetcar district, 1010 East 9th.
So on East 9th Street, kind of just outside of downtown, this is an area that was single family, and we zoned these small single family lots to RT, residential traditional. So that's the difference between the one that we just looked at was residential single family RS, residential traditional. And so it's on a commercial strip, a commercial area, and so they'd like to rezone it to the C2 commercial and build it out as a commercial use.
Very good. We'll see what the public thinks of that in that area. So our next item, rezone from the O Office District to the Residential Cluster Development Planned Unit, 7100 block of South Man Cave Place.
Yes, this is on
Man Cave Place.
Yeah.
That's it.
This
Naming
is-
rights.
This is on South Minnesota Avenue. This is almost a housekeeping issue. So, I think most people understand what a man cave is. It is an area that men believe that they can go in and have their pool table and their big TV and their refrigerator. And so on South Minnesota Avenue, they had an office district that they were going to build these individual standalone man caves, and we were going to do them in an office district. And then as we got into the fire code and building code issues, we realized that really we could do them in RCD residential clusters because they're not offices, they're residential units because they have bathrooms, they have everything in them. So they're rezoning it to what it actually is on these 3 lots down on South Minnesota Avenue.
Very interesting concept.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how this goes.
Right.
All right. Our next item is an alternative site plan for an alternative landscape plan, West 69th and South Louise.
So with alternative site plans, we also built this into our new zoning ordinance where all the things that we've talked about already, when you come in, we've talked about you need a building permit. You
Right.
need to have the correct utilities. You need to have the correct parking, correct lighting, and the correct landscaping standards, and you have to meet those. If for some reason you can't meet the landscaping, for whatever reason, you can come back to a public hearing and say, I have an issue, I'm unable to meet the standard as laid out in black and white, can I do it differently? So that's what these 2 alternative site plans are. In general, what happens is they have easements in the area. We're like, you have to plant trees in this location at this specific, and so even think about if you have a single family house and we're like, and we don't require trees at single family houses, but we're like, in your front yard, you got to put a tree every 5 feet along your front yard, and then you come back and go, but there's an easement up there, I can't do it. And we're like, no, you have to. And they're like,
Right.
but I can't. No, you have to. But I can't. No, I have to. They're like, can I do it differently? Okay, do you still meet the intent of the ordinance by having trees in your front yard, but not on top of a gas line? And we're like, okay, yeah.
Makes sense?
Makes
Gives you that
Right.
level set for,
Still doing it,
Yep.
come back to the public hearing, show up at Planning Commission, show us how you're going to plant the trees in a different location, but still generally in the front area, but not on top of and so both of these that we have on this agenda is still meeting the ordinance, but in a appropriate way.
Sure. Well, and sticking with that
Yeah.
wonderful preamble
Yes.
that you had there, there's another alternative landscape plan at the 1800 block of North Terran.
So this
Circle.
one on 1800 North Terran Circle is also the same issue. They come in, they bring in their building plans, they're meeting building code, they're meeting their parking, their lighting, their signage. They get to their landscaping, they're figuring out their last site details, and they have to meet the landscaping. They bring in an alternative site plan. There's grade changes where we'll say, you have to put a berm in and trees, and they're like, but our site's like this, high to low, why would we put a berm down here when we're, okay.
You already have
You already
that.
have a grade change. Okay, just tell us how it's going to work better. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, very good. I think I recognize this last item here, a conditional use permit for off-site accessory parking within 250 feet of a sensitive use, West 6th Avenue in North Minnesota. I think we're helping out our friends at the county with
We are.
this.
We're working with the county here, Minnehaha County. 2 months ago, I think it was, on the northwest corner of 6th and Minnesota, we rezoned that corner to commercial, and then it's commercial, but at the same time, a conditional use is to allow parking there. The county, and for their customers as well as their employees, they have parking constraints. They're a big building, they have a lot of users down there, and they don't always have the ability to meet all their parking demands.
Right.
So they want to have more parking on this corner, and even now they have employees that park off campus, off site of the buildings, and so they're on the south side of 6th, and they'll be on the west side of Minnesota Avenue, so that really the citizens or the need people can be on campus.
Well, that's really good, because I assume then when you're saying they park off campus, it's either they have to pay for extra parking somewhere else, or
Right.
they're using street and probably
Yeah,
a little
it's
more.
like a lot of people in downtown, anybody that's watching this and understands downtown, you don't get to park necessarily right by your building. You're parking further away, you're walking, and that's the same thing here, except here you're across the street. So then how do you do that? What's the conditions? Are there landscaping standards? Maybe you have alternative, how's the signing, how's the landscaping, what's the lighting going to look like? That's the things that we'll look at. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you. That concludes our list of items that we'll be reviewing for the November 1st meeting. We encourage everyone to come out and participate in that process. Certainly, if you have any questions of the items we discussed today, please feel free to reach out to the planning staff office, and they'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So for now, thank you very much for joining us, and have a great day.